August 20th, 79 AD. Pompeii, Roman Empire. They say the gods walk among them here, that you can feel their breath in the warm wind, taste their moods in the dust. I used to laugh at such talk, but now, walking these ancient streets, I find myself unsure. The sun hit hard when I arrived, dry and golden, casting long shadows from the columns of the city gate. My clothes are coarse linen, hand-dyed to blend in. My papers forged well enough to pass for a minor merchant from Ostia. I even brought coin, real denarii, cleaned and aged, all to buy myself a few days among the living. Pompeii pulses with life, not the slow, tired rhythm of survival, but the kind of life that believes itself eternal. Boys race through alleyways shouting in Latin. A fishmonger calls out prices in a voice hoarse from decades of salt. A woman adjusts her hairpin in a bronze mirror, unaware she is already history. I walk slowly, absorbing everything. Mosaic floors shimmer beneath sandal-trod dust. The graffiti on the walls is fresh and bold. Crude jokes, political slogans, the names of lovers etched in charcoal and wine. Felix amat Cornelium. Felix loves Cornelia. It's written near the bakery. I don't think she ever knew. The Forum is a masterpiece of organization. Temples, market stalls, magistrates debating with bored expressions. I pass by a vendor selling honeyed nuts and dried figs. I buy both, and the vendor grins like he's cheated me. He hasn't. I would have paid anything to see this with my own eyes. And overhead, always, Mount Vesuvius, green, still, watching. The locals don't talk about it much. It last rumbled years ago, they say, before the current emperor, before most of them were born. They see a mountain. I see a loaded weapon ticking down. I've rented a modest room off the Via dell'Abbondanza, a main road alive with carts and the slap of sandals. From my window, I can see a fountain where children splash water at each other under the scolding gaze of a matron. It's all so vivid, so real. And yet, the ghosts are already here. I can feel them. Not the ones they pray to in their household shrines, but the ones yet to come. They breathe down my neck when I see a child laugh. They whisper behind my thoughts when I pass the amphitheater, where the stone still echoes gladiator chants. I know how this ends, but for them, this is just another hot day in the empire. Tomorrow, I begin blending in, learning names, routines, faces I may never see again. For now, I sit by lamplight and write by the window, listening to the heartbeat of a city that does not know it's dying. August 21st, 79 AD, a city in bloom. The morning sun paints the city in gold. Stalls open with the squeal of wooden shutters. The scent of fresh bread mingles with olive oil and crushed herbs. Somewhere, a rooster crows. Somewhere else, a lute begins to play. This is Pompeii at its most confident, unaware, unhurried, alive. I walk the street slowly, careful not to draw attention. My story is simple. A seller of inks and parchment from the coast. Curious, but forgettable. I nod when spoken to, smile when smiled at, listen more than I speak. In the market square, a young woman haggles over lemons. She laughs easily. Her tunic is dyed saffron, a luxury, but her sandals are worn. A boy steals a fig and vanishes into the crowd, chased by a laughing vendor. The baker carves initials into the bread loaves before placing them into his clay oven, so families can recognize what's theirs. Everything here has its rhythm. The city is loud but not chaotic, structured, civilized in the Roman way. Street fountains bubble near every corner, fed by aqueducts that rival anything in the future. Mosaics tell stories beneath the feet of men who don't look down. Frescoes bloom across villa walls, Venus, Bacchus, Jupiter, lovers and battles and beasts. I visit the public baths. The heat is stifling but welcome. Steam curls around the marble and conversation flows in gentle Latin. Men argue about politics, about the price of olive oil, about a new play at the theatre. No one speaks of the mountain. Not yet. Later, I wander the garden of the House of the Vetii. It's absurdly beautiful. Columns surrounding trimmed hedges and painted walls, open to the sky. I imagine the owners reclining with wine, convinced they've captured eternity in stone and pigment. They haven't. Still, there's something admirable in the attempt. Children race past me near the Temple of Apollo, playing with hoops and carved dice. A few passers-by are sick. I see the signs, the way they walk hunched or breathe with effort. But most are strong, tan from the sun, hardened by the work of empire. I follow the sound of music in the late afternoon to a courtyard where young men practice poetry. One recites verses from Virgil, fumbling the cadence. His friends tease him. He grins, embarrassed but proud. I don't write it down. I just listen. As dusk falls, lanterns bloom like fireflies across doorways. The taverns fill with wine and arguments. A man near me curses the gods for the heat, then offers the last of his meat to a stray dog without breaking his sentence. It's a city of contradictions, grand yet crumbling, sophisticated yet superstitious, glorious in its belief that tomorrow will be the same. And maybe that's why I feel such weight in my chest, because I know tomorrow will not be the same. Tonight, I return to my room and wash the dust from my feet with water carried from a fountain built before Christ was born. I sit by the open window, listening to the hum of Pompeii. It is beautiful, and it is doomed. August 22nd, 79 AD. Cracks in the sky. Something is wrong. The day began like the others, with the shriek of carts, the chatter of traders, the scent of oil and citrus in the air. But beneath it all, there's something. A tension, like a held breath. The animals felt it first. Dogs barked endlessly through the night. Roosters crowed at odd hours, restless, disoriented. I passed a stable this morning where a mule refused to move, trembling despite the heat. The owner cursed and beat it with a stick. It didn't budge. Later, in the forum, I noticed a crack in the marble floor, thin, jagged, new. No one else looked twice. The locals are used to tremors. One man I spoke to, a stonemason named Varro, told me they're common. The mountain grumbles, he said with a shrug. It always has. He pointed to a collapsed wall being repaired with new bricks. See that? 2 years ago, no one died. We rebuild. That's what we do. I nodded, but that's not what this is. In the bathhouse today, I felt it. Not just heard or saw it, felt it. A low vibration, barely perceptible. The water in the basin rippled. No one mentioned it. Perhaps they didn't notice. Or perhaps it's easier to ignore the things that don't fit the story you want to live. At the temple, a priestess lit incense and waved it toward the altar of Vesta with more fervor than usual. She whispered a prayer I didn't recognize, older Latin, rougher, almost fearful. The flame flickered sideways, though there was no breeze. People are starting to watch the sky more often. They don't say it aloud, but they look. Long, uncertain glances toward the mountain's peak. It remains quiet, green, sleeping. A crown of soft clouds drifted above it at midday, delicate, circular. One woman nearby crossed herself, though she wore the rings of an old patrician family who should have known better than to pray like a Gallic peasant. Superstition seeps in through the cracks. A vendor refused to take my coin this afternoon, insisting it bore a cursed mark. It was just worn. But fear makes new meanings of old things. I've seen this before, in other times, other cities. People sense when something is coming. Their minds don't always understand, but their bodies do. They rush to marry, to sell, to fight, to pray, or to ignore. At dinner, I watched a wealthy couple argue. The woman was upset that her husband wanted to leave for Naples early. Just one more day, she pleaded. We have the villa rented. The garden party is planned. He relented. Of course he did. Time is always a luxury, until it isn't. Tonight the wind is dry and strange. There's a taste to it, metallic almost, and a heaviness in the air, as though the sky is preparing to speak. I look at Vesuvius now through my window. It hasn't changed shape. It doesn't roar. But I swear, it watches back. Something is coming, and it's already too late to leave. August 23rd, 79 AD. Warnings ignored. The mountain breathed. Just once. A plume, faint but undeniable, rose from its peak this morning. Pale grey, slow, curling upward like the smoke of a sacrificial fire. It disappeared into the blue sky, barely noticed by most. But I saw it. So did a few others. A shepherd near the forum crossed himself and muttered something about Vulcan stoking his forge. A potter's apprentice stared up in silence, eyes wide with something too deep for his age, but most simply, didn't care. The city went on. The baths opened. The markets buzzed. Laughter filled the streets as usual. A group of boys tossed dice in the shadow of a colonnade. A woman shouted at her servant for bringing unripe figs. The baker sang as he kneaded dough, off-key and full of joy. What is one little column of smoke? Rome has taught them. Nature is a thing to be mastered. Roads cut through forests. Aqueducts tame rivers. Mountains are scenery, nothing more. But I've seen this before, not just here but elsewhere in time. This refusal to believe the world can change in a single breath, that the earth beneath your feet can become your tomb. There was a festival planned today, a minor one honoring Vulcan, god of fire. The irony is unbearable. I visited the temple briefly. The priest wore robes stained with ash from old rituals. He waved a bronze censer and chanted offerings. Behind him, the painted image of the god loomed, red-faced, hammer in hand, surrounded by flames. A myth, a warning ignored. I overheard a merchant nearby scoff. If Vulcan wants tribute, he can come down and ask for it himself. He will. Midday brought heat, thick and dry. The fountain sputtered once, a strange gurgling noise that made an old man mutter about omens. Then they returned to normal, and no one questioned it again. Still, there's an edge in the air now, like static before a storm. People argue more easily. Animals startle at nothing. The birds are fewer. In the evening, I walked past the amphitheater. Workers were setting up for a mock naval battle. The arena would be flooded, they said, for entertainment. I wanted to laugh or scream. Instead, I watched the sky turn amber as the sun dipped low behind Vesuvius. The smoke is thicker now. Just a little. Just enough to shade the clouds. But the city still sleeps in denial. They do not run. They do not pray louder. They do not pack or flee or make peace with their gods. They host dinners, paint walls, whisper gossip, fall in love. And tomorrow, everything changes. There are many moments in history worth remembering. If you'd like to walk through more of them, you know what to do. August 24th, 79 AD. Morning. The black rain. It began with a sound. A deep, unnatural crack. like the world itself splitting open. The kind of noise that silences everything else. I was already awake, sitting by the window, notebook in hand. I'd barely slept. Then came the second sound. A long, rumbling roar like thunder dragged across stone. Windows rattled. Birds launched from rooftops in a frenzy. The street dogs howled and scattered. I stood and looked toward the mountain. Vesuvius was gone, swallowed by a column of ash rising miles into the sky. Not smoke, not fire. Ash, thick grey, churning upward in a column so wide and tall, it seemed to touch the sun. The ground shook, hard this time. The floor beneath me heaved, then dropped. Not a tremor, but a jolt. People screamed in the street. Pottery shattered. A cart overturned. Someone cried out in Latin, "Terra movit." The earth moves. Then came the rain. Not water, but blackness. Fine, powdery ash falling from the sky like snow that had lost its innocence. It coated everything. Rooftops, roads, bare skin. It turned the blue sky into a smear of grey. Breathing became harder. The air tasted like chalk and blood. And still, no one understood. Some ran for the temples, others for the forum. Parents shouted for their children. Shopkeepers tried to gather their wares. I saw one man frantically sweeping ash from his doorstep as if cleanliness could stop the end of the world. The first buildings began to crack. Roofs not built for this weight. Columns tilted. The air grew darker by the hour, lit only by flashes from within the cloud. Not lightning, but something else. Something stranger. Electrical charges dancing in the ash, like the gods arguing in smoke. I made my way toward the outer edge of the city. I told myself it was for safety, but truthfully, I couldn't stop watching. I was transfixed. This was the moment history would forget the details. The hours before the panic, when confusion still reigned. I saw a mother holding her child beneath a cloth, both covered in soot. A priest shouting prayers to Jupiter while coughing violently. A boy no older than 10 running barefoot, sobbing for someone named Lucia. People don't panic all at once. Panic is a slow bloom. And this was still the first petal opening. I sat beneath a stone archway and wrote until the ash began to clump in the ink. My hands are black now. My lungs burn. My thoughts come in fragments. But I must record this, because even now, even as the sky darkens and the tremors continue, many still believe this will pass, that the gods will show mercy, that tomorrow will come. But I know better. This is not a warning. It's the beginning. August 24th, 79 AD. Afternoon. Fire in the sky. The city is breaking. It's past midday now, but you wouldn't know it. The sky is black, not grey, not dim, black, as if the sun itself has turned its back. Torches flicker uselessly. Ash falls thicker than ever, hot to the touch now. Each breath scrapes the lungs like sandpaper. And then came the fire. Not flames, not yet, but heat, sudden and immense. From the mountain, a roar rose that drowned out every scream, every prayer. The ash column had begun to collapse, forming pyroclastic waves, searing avalanches of gas and stone moving faster than wind. I saw the first one from a distance, pouring down the slope like smoke with purpose. And the sound, like 1,000 furnaces exploding at once. People ran. The panic is here now, complete, absolute. No one questions, no one doubts. They just flee, though they no longer know where to go. I passed a woman, cradling an old man in the street. She wept openly. He was already gone. I could see it in the way his hand hung limp, blackened with ash. She held him anyway. Shouts echoed through the alleys. People called for loved ones lost in the cloud. Others stumbled blindly, eyes red, mouths covered in cloth. Some tried to climb walls, desperate to rise above the choking ash. Others huddled in doorways, frozen, mouths moving in silent prayer. The Temple of Apollo is crumbling. I saw the western colonnade fall as I passed, columns crashing like dominoes, sending priests and pilgrims scattering into the smoke. The gods are silent now, or gone. I keep moving, toward the edge of the city, toward higher ground. Not to escape, that isn't possible. Just to see, to witness. Above me, chunks of rock the size of fists fall from the sky. Not stone from the mountain, but hardened ash, falling like divine punishment. Roofs give way, beams snap. Fire begins to flicker at the edges of homes, born from oil lamps knocked into chaos. The amphitheater is buried halfway already. The streets flood not with water, but with ash. A slow, creeping tide that swallows sandals and souls alike. I saw the young poet again, the one who read Virgil just 2 days ago. He was dragging a girl by the wrist, both coughing, both crying. I called out. He didn't hear, or he did, and it didn't matter. There are no names in disaster, only movement. The earth quakes again, stronger than before. I fall to my knees near a cracked statue of Mercury. It topples beside me, shatters, and I think how strange it is that gods carved in marble fall as easily as men. I find shelter beneath a collapsed portico, half buried, choking, heart pounding. I am no longer invisible. I am no longer a witness. I am inside the moment. The heat is unbearable now. The ash has turned to a blizzard of embers. The mountain screams louder than any human voice. The sky is fire. The streets are graves. The city is dying. And still I write, because words are all I have left to give them. I can't stop this, but I can remember. August 24th, 79 AD. Evening. Burying the living. It's almost over. Pompeii is a city no longer. It is ash and heat and silence, held together by memory alone. The streets are buried, the temples are crumbling, and the sky, if it still exists above this blackness, has not been seen in hours. I'm sheltered now, in the remains of a villa near the city wall. Part of the roof has held. The ash is piling high outside, but in here, it's quiet, heavy, still. I'm not afraid. I will survive. I always do. Time will reach for me soon, pull me back before the final breath of this place is sealed under stone. It always does. My presence here has limits, guardrails I don't control. I won't die in this room, but they will, and that's the way I carry, because all I can do now is watch, listen, remember. A final surge came not long ago. I heard it before I felt it. A distant howl rolling down from the mountain like thunder on the march. It hit the city with a muffled roar. Not fire this time, but something worse. Heat, ash, silence. The world outside stopped making sound. There are no screams anymore. Just the faint groan of stone, the crack of collapsing beams, and the hiss of settling dust. I saw a child earlier, maybe 5, maybe 6, curled beside what might have been a sibling, arms wrapped around a doll. They looked asleep, peaceful. They won't be found for nearly 2,000 years. What do I do with that? People think survival is the reward, the gift. But time travel doesn't save you from grief. It just preserves it. I'll step through some invisible veil, return to my century, and they'll still be here. Beneath this floor, beneath this silence. History will call this a tragedy. And it is. But it's also intimate, small, human. Not just gods and volcanoes. It's the man who stayed to search for his wife. The girl who ran the wrong way, the mother who chose to die holding her son rather than live without him. That's what ash preserves, not drama, but details. My lungs ache, my face is streaked with soot. I'm writing by instinct now, while there's still light enough to see. I won't perish here, but a part of me won't leave either. Some fragment of thought, of sorrow, of helpless witnessing. It'll remain in this room, under this ash, and maybe that's why I came. Not to save them, not to change history, just to be here. So someone would remember their final hour from inside it. Time is pulling at me already, subtly. My vision blurs at the edges. The familiar hum begins, like the stirring of invisible gears. I'll be gone soon, but they won't be. They'll sleep beneath the ash, untouched for nearly 20 centuries, and I will carry their silence through every year I visit. I stood on the beach at Normandy before the boats arrived. I watched the Berlin Wall crack under the weight of a divided world. And still, time calls me onward. If you wish to follow, subscribe. Time is always moving,